Welcome to another edition of Islanders Insider. I'm Stephen King. We're coming to you from the locker room once again this week as we're going to continue our discussion on Islanders hoops. We'll be joined by head coach Coach Chadwick of women's basketball a bit later. But as we get things started, we welcome the head coach of Islanders men's basketball, Coach Wilson. Coach, appreciate it.
Always good to be with you.
Always good to be with
Always.
you, sir. Outside of wins and losses, and ultimately people judge everything by wins and losses, but how would you evaluate your team's performances these last couple of weeks? Just to break it down, of course, there was a nip and tuck battle against Stephen F. Austin, then the really difficult loss up at Oklahoma, and then kind of a nail-biter at Sam Houston State as conference play continued. You know, kind of rate the performances.
Well, we're a team that's we're a little bit in flux, but we've made a lot of progress. You know, we talked about this very, very early on in the season. This team needs games to get better. It's really difficult to go through it and just practice and practice and practice and be able to measure yourself. You have to face a level of adversity. Now, certainly we've faced our share of adversity over the course of this season, but the fact of the matter is we are getting better. Even going back to the Oklahoma game, a couple games back, we hold them to 40% from the field. That's something we hadn't done in a while. To be able to do that in back-to-back games and turn around and do it again at Sam Houston State on the road, that's a positive for our basketball team. We've made some progress defensively. We've got a couple guys that are shooting the ball better. The difficult challenge right now is for our players to be able to see the progress and feel the progress. You just don't measure it the same way when you're dropping ball games as you do when you're winning ball games. But the fact of the matter is we have made progress. We are getting better, and we're going to keep fighting. And I need to say this, I've got a lot of hope for our basketball team before the season ends.
Absolutely. As you said, the defensive effort against Oklahoma, keeping them to 40%. You out-rebound Sam Houston State, so there are things that are progressing, but the one thing that's still kind of holding you back is the shooting percentage. You know, it's keeping you down and just not getting shots to fall. And you've addressed that many, many times, but it's still an issue.
Well, and there is progress. 48% in the second half against Sam Houston. To out-rebound them, to hold them to 41% from the field. Those are numbers where you can win. The issue becomes, again, the start of basketball games, the shooting percentage in the first half. We've continued to work on it. We're going to continue to work on it. We have seen progress, and sometimes those things can't be measured on a stat sheet, but it's showing up in practice, and we've got to continue to do it so that it shows up in basketball games.
One of the players you've not had on the floor as of late is Zane Knowles. Zane Knowles, 6'9", 240 pounds, a big physical presence he is. Now, against Stephen F. Austin, they had a big fella in Taylor Smith that really had a big night. Someone like Zane would have been very handy to have because of that ability to muscle. And of course, Oklahoma, they bring so many bruisers to the floor. How important is that for you when putting together a game plan to have that type of physical presence to combat a team?
Well, that's the one dimension that we've counted on all year long, and to not have a big body like Zane's. Zane is the one guy that has that physical presence. He's the one guy that has the touch to score around the basket and to keep defenses honest, to be able to stretch the floor, if you will, from an inside-out perspective. And so to not have that, it's been disappointing. But hopefully he'll get his stride back, get back on the floor here in the next week or two, and we'll see a difference.
One of the kids that has stepped up in that situation has been Dale Francis. Like Dale Francis, a freshman out of England, played 27 minutes against Sam Houston State, and it seems like he just continues to progress. I think physically he's getting bigger. He's working very hard physically, his body, but I think his comprehension of the game and the NCAA game is coming, well, since the beginning, by leaps and bounds.
You know, Dale is a guy that has a great deal of promise. He's a guy that we can win with in this basketball program. And you know, the interesting thing about watching Dale is he stands out on film, and that's important from a coach's standpoint. When you're watching film and you start to notice a guy and you notice his physicality, you notice his effort, you notice him trying to do the things that it's going to take for our team to win. In coaching, we use the term activation a lot, and he's been a guy that's more and more activated on game day, activated in practice situations, and that's the kind of thing that we need to be able to build around. It's really a critical piece because with young kids, it's challenging and difficult for them to activate. And what I mean by that is you notice them making a change. You notice them making the effort to do things in a different way. They're going to allow your team to have some success.
Let's look at the Sam Houston State game. I think the one thing that really stands out from that game was foul trouble. Initially, You have Will Nelson picking up 2 fouls in the first, well, couple minutes, actually picks up his 3rd with a technical foul. Composure issue right there. I'm sure you've had a lot of discussion with him. And Jonathan Jordan, that's your leading scorer and your 2nd leading scorer, your top assist man. He's got 3 fouls with 10 minutes into the game.
Well, in John's case, he picked up 2 fouls back-to-back in the very, very early runnings of the game. And so, again, it changes the way you have to play. It kind of changes the way you want to try to dictate the tempo in the game plan. But that's part of having a young, inexperienced basketball team. You just have to learn and grow from it. And we put ourselves behind the 8 ball a little bit, but the positive thing is we responded in a very positive way, and we were able to get some really solid minutes out of our bench. And some of those young guys that had not stepped up and played particularly well were able to give us some quality play. Cole Martinez knocked down a couple big shots and was solid. Jelani Curry, the minutes that he gave us were very, very positive. And James King, walk-on coming off the bench, just showing poise and experience and really showing some leadership in terms of just being sound and solid. That's the kind of play that we need, and that's the kind of play that we can build around.
Let me ask you one thing. I'm going to change gears just for a moment here. I'm going to talk about basketball specifically, the game itself, before we wrap up with you today. In the game against Sam Houston State, 7 offensive fouls were called. And there's some that are the traditional offensive fouls, the charge, but some of those illegal screens. Now, I wanted to ask you about this. What normally happens in the situation in illegal screen? Does a lot of it fall upon the screener or the guy setting up the screen, the driver?
Well, you must have been listening to the coach's conversation on the bus last night coming back as we were watching film. 90% of the time, it's a result of the offensive player who's receiving the screen moving too quickly. That's a big part of it. But let me touch on something that you alluded to. The way that game was called was really, really unusual last night. I've never been involved in a game. I want to say there were almost a dozen charging calls in that game, combined, maybe more combined. We really got off to a slow start, and it seemed like every play Sam Houston State was moving under, cutting off the player making the pass or making the shot. And I have not seen that many offensive fouls called where guys are passing the ball, where guys are stepping in. And that's really unusual. The interesting thing was they were consistent. When we made that adjustment, we started doing the same thing, and we were the beneficiaries of that same call later on in the game. So you have to give the officials credit for being consistent, but really, really unusual game the way that thing was being called.
Next up, heading on the road, McNeese and Lamar. Next 2 games for your squad. Any thoughts on those upcoming 2?
Well, we're going to have to really do a good job with our preparation. Our coaches have done a great job every night preparing us for games. What we really need is we need our players to execute that game plan, and we need to go on the road and get off to a good start. One of the things that we've preached, if any team in this league should be prepared to go on the road, it should be us. We've done the doubles consistently all year long with this season in mind, with this conference season in mind. So we should be able to do it. McNeese is a tough team, and they're tough at home. But I know we're going to have a sound game plan if we can make a little bit of progress this week, and we'll do a lot of situations now that we've got 3 days to prepare, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, in terms of getting prepared. So we'll do a lot of situation type stuff in practice to get ready for that game. And then Lamar is a team that's in flux, kind of like we are. They've really, really struggled. So there's going to be an opportunity to hopefully get a couple wins. Worst case scenario, let's get a split and then come back home with a little bit of momentum.
Absolutely. Coach, we appreciate your time today.
Well, always a pleasure.
Coach Wilson joining us once again here on Islanders Insider. When we come back, we're going to check in with our field correspondent, Erick Cantu, and he's going to tell you a story about one of the Islander exceptional athletes, Peter Nagy of Islanders Tennis. That's coming your way right here on Islanders Insider. Welcome back to Islanders Insider. At this time, we're going to check in with our field correspondent, Erick Cantu, as he tells you a story about one of the Islander exceptional athletes, men's tennis player Peter Nagy.
Native Hungarian Peter Nagy has gone from a talented player looking for consistency during his first year on the island to one of the top 50 collegiate players in the nation heading into a sophomore season due to his dedication to getting better.
The root of it is that he's so highly motivated. He is very, very motivated to become a great college player, but to play pro tennis after college. And so I think that drives a lot of what he does. I think the thing that's special about Peter is there's a lot of guys who have that same goal. I don't know many college players who would not like to play pro tennis. I think they all would. But Peter's discipline and his approach to get there is special.
Nagi earned 2 titles during the fall semester, winning the Marco & Company Catering Islanders Open and the Rice Galleria Fall Invitational.
And I just work hard. I mean, I'm trying to control the things that I can control. I'm trying to eat normally, hydration normally, taking care of the rest. And
Nagi has his eyes on immediate goals for the team, including a Southland Conference championship, advancing to the NCAA tournament as a team and also as an individual. But he also has goals beyond college tennis, including his dream of playing professionally and representing his country in Davis Cup play.
my first goal is to win the conference in the spring with the team, and then just play deep in the NCAA and show everybody that our team it can be much better than like this now, because I think we have a good team spirit and we can fight much harder than we're supposed to do. And then when I'm gonna be end of college, I'm gonna turn pro. This is my dream. That's why I wake up every day. That's why I'm working so hard. I want to be a top 200 player and play Davis Cup for our nation.
Moore knows that Nagi ultimately wants to play in the professional ranks, and everything he has seen of Nagi during the time in between his freshman and sophomore year has him convinced that Nagi will be successful in his pursuit of a career in tennis after his time with the Islanders.
You see the guys that are going deep into the NCAA championships in the singles tournament, and he's currently one of the top 50 players in Division I, only as a sophomore. You see these players that are top 5, top 7, top 10. When they finish college, these are the players that are getting ranked top 200 in the ATP. There's a statistic that is a very telling statistic, and it is which nation has more players in the top 200 ATP on the Pro Tour, and the answer is the nation of college tennis. Guys that have played college tennis, there's more of them in the top 200 ATP. So for Peter to reach one of his goals only helps him reach the next goal and helps him reach the next goal, and he just keeps climbing the ladder. And like I said, the whole key is really his attitude, because he's got the talent. He does have the talent, but it's the attitude to get strong, to train your body.
I just want to be an example for my other teammates that anyone, if you would wear the price to work hard, anyone can get a higher level.
For Islanders Insider, this is Erick Cantu.
Welcome back to Islanders Insider as we come to you from the locker room once again. Now it's time to talk a little Islanders women's basketball with their head coach, Coach Chadwick. Coach, appreciate you joining us once again.
Thanks, Stephen. Glad to be here.
Well, since the last time we met, the teams hit the floor a couple times. A difficult 69-38 loss to TCU on the road, always a challenging event going up to Fort Worth, but also a loss to open up Southland Conference play against Sam Houston State, 65-46. Now, scoring the basketball is a strong percentage, well, the key element of the game, but unfortunately it's been our biggest problem.
Well, we are not a prolific scoring team, and when that happens, then you have to rely on other parts of the game. We have to rely on rebounding, we have to rely on our defense, we have to rely on our offensive patience, and we got to get to the free throw line. Unfortunately, against Sam Houston State, we didn't rebound the ball very well. We got out-rebounded by 16. That has to change as we move forward. We shot about our normal percentage, and we're trying to up that 2 or 3% every single game, and we were unable to do that. Got to be a little bit more patient on offense, set a little bit better screen. We have to play a better scheme of defense, and we got a huge challenge against Stephen F. Austin.
Yeah, upcoming, there's no doubt. Now, you've been doing this a long time, substantial career. Have you ever kind of had to deal with this type of scenario before where the team just had so much of a struggle, a consistent struggle, scoring the basketball?
No, you know, and we're in a situation where we won 11 basketball games in 2 years, and we graduated our best player. So we have a lot of players that have not had a lot of success in the last couple of years, and unfortunately, a bunch of them are seniors. So we're trying to get them out of the acceptance of, well, it's just not our night. No, you make it your night. And so it's very difficult. You know, I've talked to a couple of old coaches and, told them where I was and what was going on. And they basically said, know, you have to overcome some of the lack of talent situations that you have, keep your players in the game, give them an opportunity to win the basketball game, and you do that with rebounding and defense, and we have to emphasize that more.
To ultimately turn the team in from what a finesse team into a grinder team.
Without a doubt, and we're not big enough to go in and grind and screen and play smash mouth basketball, you know. But we got to we got to play like a woodpecker, you know. We got to use our head, you know. We're going to have to do the things where we outsmart some people instead of out talent them.
Well, over the last 4 games, your most consistent performer has been senior Jessica Jammer. Now she's averaged just about 12 points per game and 7 rebounds per game. You know, she's a senior. She has to be a leader as well. Are you pleased with her production, and is there more that you need more from her?
Well, we need consistency from her, and she's become more consistent as the years gone along. She is really a forward play in the paint for us, simply because we don't have a lot of paint prowess. So she's playing a little bit out of position, but we're trying to use her abilities by letting her face the basket, pull a bigger player away from the basket, give her opportunities to get to the rim. And she's really accepted her role and really come on for us. The other thing we got to get from her, we got to get rebounding. You know, if you're going to play a power forward spot, you got to get more than 2 or 3 rebounds a game. And she's not a big girl, but she plays with an awful lot of heart and character, and I think that she'll buy into that role as we go through Southland Conference play.
And especially someone like Jessica, who's got this athletic ability. You know, we've talked previously about you know, going to the hole. I think that's in her best interest to be aggressive, put the ball on the floor, go to the hole, and try to make a basketball play. If not, make the shot, get to the foul line.
Without a doubt, she's a high flyer. When she gets up and really is aggressive to the rim, if she'll just shoot a vanilla shot, it goes in. When she tries to be a little bit too extravagant and maybe move the ball 2 or 3 times, it's really hard for her to control it for lack of strength. And when she's in the air like that, when she's moving the ball 3 or 4 different places, it tends to throw her shot off. So what we have to get her to do is understand, just go make the vanilla play. You can make the high flying play to get by your player, but as you go to the rim, just that plain old normal boring shot that goes in the basket is what we're after.
Doesn't have to, there's no style points.
Absolutely. You know, it doesn't have to look good, just needs to go in the hole.
You know, on the flip side, you have a freshman, Janae Blunt, who was leading the team in scoring, but, you know, I think she averaged, well, scored in double figures 7 of the first 10 games. But as of late, the last 3 games, she's struggled a bit. Now, Jessica Jammer's a senior, Janae Blunt, she's a freshman. Is there a difference in the mindset, the way you have to coach a senior versus a freshman through issues like this?
Without a doubt. I think when you look across our team, we have a plethora of personalities and characters. You coach each one differently, but you also have a wide array of experience. And we're in a situation with Jessica Jammer where she is extremely experienced. There's very few things she hasn't seen on the court. And when you talk about Janae Blunt, she's seen nothing. She's used to playing high school basketball. But most freshmen, when they go into a program, don't get the minutes that she and Ashante have. Most freshmen, by the time their year's over, they've played about the minutes that these girls have already played. So we're trying to get them to turn the corner a little faster and start playing more like sophomores and moving up the chart with their experience and relying on what they've already seen. So yes, there's a huge difference in what you do with freshmen and what you do with senior.
What is needed right now to right the ship? If there was one thing in particular, a couple things that you could pinpoint to get things going in the direction you want them?
Well, you know, if we could get some more talent, that would certainly change things abruptly. However, that's not going to happen. You know, we are what we are, and we are going to have to, number one, work with this team to help them develop the fundamentals that they missed way back when, and we do fundamentals every single day so that we can get a little bit better. Next, I got to keep my coaches on the road. You know, they got to go out and they got to be looking for future talent, because we can't be here next year with this same situation. We have to make improvements at the point. We've got to make improvements at the 2. We got to make improvements at the 3. We don't have a spot that we can say, boy, that spot's taken care of. We knew that there was going to take some time because we understood where the program was. It's just you know, a bitter pill to swallow every night as you go out and see your team doing things that we just can't make mistakes. I mean, if we make 1 or 2 mistakes, we're not talented enough to overcome those. So we have to start playing flawlessly, and that's a very difficult task.
Well, this is an interesting time of the year because you're in between semesters. Now, is this a kind of a cherished opportunity for coaches to have the athletes during this time of year because you're free of the distractions of academics? I know that sounds strange to say, considering it's a collegiate institution, but when you have their complete attention, is this kind of a cherished time for you?
It's really the best time of the year. It's as close to playing in the WNBA as we'll all ever get. They are on a meal plan. They are having their apartments, taken care of, and their one requirement right now is to be an athlete. That they don't have to be a student athlete. And when the 24th gets here, then they go back into the student athlete thing, and we rearrange our priorities. So right now, it's all about basketball. This is our best time to put them on the court and help them get better.
Coach, I appreciate it.
All right, Stephen, thank you.
Stay with us. When we come back here on Islanders Insider, we'll tell you what's next for Islanders Athletics. Stay with us. This is Islanders Insider. Welcome back to Islanders Insider. As we wrap things up today here in the locker room, let's bring you up to speed on what's next for Islanders Athletics. On Thursday, January 10th, doubleheader action continues as the Islander men and women head to McNeese State. Game 1 of that two-game doubleheader will start at 5:30, and it will be televised on Southland Television. On Saturday, January 12th, doubleheader action continues at Lamar University in Beaumont, Texas. The doubleheader gets underway starting at 4 o'clock. And then on Thursday, January 17th, we return back to the American Bank Center as we continue with the doubleheader format as Oral Roberts comes to town. That doubleheader action will start at 5 o'clock. Don't forget, on that day, a 4 for $44 deal gets underway. That's 4 hot dogs, 4 drinks, and 4 tickets for $44. For more information about Islander tickets, you can contact the Islander ticket office at 825-BALL. That's 825-2255. We want to thank Coach Chadwick once again of Islanders women's basketball and Willis Wilson, the head coach of Islanders men, for joining us once again today here on Islanders Insider. Thank you again to Erick Cantu for our field coverage, and thank you, of course, for tuning in and catching us once again this week. My name is Stephen King. From the locker room, you've been watching Islanders Insider.